Hello, Internet, and welcome to episode 159er of Verbal Graffiti with your host, Brian Glass, aka the B-Man, the People's Degenerate. Do travel sports destroy communities? An investigation. Actually, there will be no investigating this topic or any topic for that matter at Verbal Graffiti. We're just going to talk it out because this is something I've been debating. My inner monologue, which is always going, even when I'm dreaming. The past few years, like on and off, I'm not going to say it's constant or even often, but every once in a while, I'll get this fleeting thought about travel sports. Like, is it good? Or is it evil? And you know us here at Verbal Graffiti, we believe in being radicals. So up until very recently, and I'd say within the last 3 months or so, I was of the belief that travel sports are evil. Not like evil, Jeffrey Dahmer type evil, or sorry, Jeffrey Epstein type evil, but it's evil, just bad for kids, bad for families. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of energy. Most of your kids ain't going to be playing professional sports, aren't going to get a D1 scholarship. And even if they do get the D1 scholarship, the amount of money you have to pay for all those traveling sports from the ages of 6 through high school, yeah, you probably end up net negative money-wise. Even if your kid is the outlier that gets the D1 football, basketball, baseball, gymnastics scholarship. So I was always of that belief. Now the question I posed, does travel sports, the kids traveling sports, ruin communities? The reason why I've been having this inner monologue the last week or so, definitely more often than in the past, is because, I've been thinking about community. I take walks around my block, and it's the block I grew up in. And I think about the kids I grew up with in my community, in the neighborhood and in the town in which I reside, which is Wallingford, Connecticut. And when I was growing up, I played a lot of basketball. I know you look at me, you don't really think basketball athlete, stellar, varsity. You just look at this and you know how to dribble? Yeah, I knew how to dribble and I knew how to shoot. But I played a lot of basketball. Like every day, I would play with the kids from my neighborhood, and then we became very, very close through sports. Wiffle ball, basketball, football, depending, whatever season, part of the year it's in. And then when I got to middle school, which for where I grew up that's like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and then high school. So sixth grade and on, I played like organized basketball. So I would play, but it was all local. I didn't do any travel sports. Like all the teams I played for, they were in the town I grew up in. So it was always like my local recreational league, my CYO basketball league, like the church I was part of, and then the school teams, all my, whatever school I attended, I was good enough to make, the roster for the school. So I think all those boys that I played basketball with, I've kind of lost touch with all of them over the years, as you do in life. Most of them went on to be successful and have families and real careers and mortgages and all that bullshit. And here I am, doing Verbal Graffiti. But I've lost touch with all those guys. But sometimes I think about them, and even though I don't really, or we don't really speak or communicate or message each other, even on social media, there is at least on my part, a closeness what I have with all of them, like a kindred spirit, a brotherhood. And even though we've lost touch, there's something that will always unite us, and it is just playing basketball together on all those teams, all those leagues, after school, the playgrounds, the parks, We just played like, every day, and every year you'd be in a different team, and then you'd have friends that were on another team, and you play against each other, and you compete. But it was there was this there was a brotherhood to it. I'm not trying to equate this to like combat, like front lines, World War. It's not that tightness, but there is a just like, I know who those guys are, right? I don't know what they're doing now, but I knew their families. Their parents would drive them to the games. They'd drive us to practices. Like my dad would drive us all. And when my dad was driving, we'd listen to Big D 103 or WFAN as we went to the games or practices, and you got to know like everybody's family. Like you'd have sleepovers and you play basketball at each other's houses and you meet like each other's brothers and sisters. So you actually knew their family and they'd cook for you and your parents would cook for the other kids. And it was very communal. Right? Like it was very communal. And I don't think that was unique to me. Now I'm 41, so this was, 90s, early 2000s. This was the case. And it was probably the case for families and boys and gals all across America. And that's how you engaged with sports as a child back then. But then like AAU, especially with basketball, became a thing. And now it's almost every sport, there's traveling sports. And I bring this all up because I have a nephew who very good at basketball, much more talented than I ever was. He's taller, he can jump, he can shoot. He's a real deal. He's going off to college. He's not playing basketball because he's going to a big-time school. But if he wanted to play D2, D3, he'd probably be able to make a roster and maybe even get a scholarship. But he decided to go to a larger D1 school and focus on his academics, which is excellent for him. But he really got into the traveling sports. So like he played for his high school team, but then besides that, though, he was playing for these AAU teams that traveled all across the country. Like he'd go to Las Vegas, LA, New Hampshire, Maine, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Florida. Like he was all over. It's almost like he was playing for a D1 school. And none of the kids on his team or any of the other teams are probably going to be professionals. I don't think any of them are playing D1 sports, but that's besides the point. We all know that it's a waste of money. But the more I think about it, like my sister would and my brother-in-law, they would drive and fly with him to all these tournaments he had all across the country, every other weekend. So you think about all the time he got to spend with his parents. Much more so than I did with my dad or my mom. Like my dad would drive me like 3 towns over. It'd be a 45-minute drive maximum, which, a great time together. But then as like my sister and brother-in-law, they're spending like entire days flying and staying in a hotel with my nephew. So that like the time they got to spend together, what did they say? That's priceless. So maybe the cost of travel sports is actually worth it from a parent's perspective and a child's perspective because of that time you get to spend together. But what I feel as though travel sports, what is lost on some of the children and like teenagers that are playing travel sports that are going all across the country to play tournaments every weekend is that sense of community. Because like I was mentioning, when I grew up, I only played basketball with the boys in my town and nearby towns. And there were several hundred of us, but we all kind of knew each other. And that's when I say I'm not close with any of those guys, many of those guys anymore, but we went through those experiences together, each level, rec, CYO, high school, crosstown rivalries. Like we all, the same stepping, the same coaches, the same leagues, the same experiences, the same inside jokes. We all have that in our past. So even though we're all different people now, When I say like that we have a brotherhood, it's because we all went through that same experiences together. But with traveling sports, like the more I think about it, my nephew and many teenagers like him, uh, do they get that sense of community playing travel sports? Because if you're playing, like, we're just using basketball for this example, but if you're playing basketball, like you grow up in whatever town you're in, but then you're playing basketball every weekend with boys and competitors from a different state. But then you don't ever see those people ever again. Like you're not seeing them Monday and Tuesday. You're not seeing them in class. You're not seeing them at the party on the weekends. Like you're only seeing them at the tournament that you travel to, and that's your only connection to who you're playing with and against. All right. So I do feel like there's such a pressure now to put your kids in these travel sports, and you're going to all these leagues that are not local. So like all the boys, maybe they get better at the sport they're playing and competing at, and maybe they're developing more skills within that sport, but they're losing like some of the friendships and just that the local pride you have playing with boys that you're going to school with and that that are in your school and your church and your community and on the streets you grow up in and you play with in the summer. And that's what I'm trying to get at is like traveling sports for kids. Although it might make them better at whatever sport they're playing, you are losing that brotherhood you can be getting by playing with boys and girls like locally within the town in which you reside. So I don't think travel sports are evil, but I do think it is pulling at the fabric of community. And we're all trying to find community these days, and travel sports is one entity that is causing communities not to be as strong as they once were in this country. Whoa, let's keep it moving. There's a theme to this episode, so hopefully this will make sense. All right. This one comes from, where do I post this? Help me find a sub. Do you guys wash your balls? I hadn't washed mine for 8 months and decided finally to do it because it had a really bad odor. But I gotta be honest, I regretted this decision immediately. It was just slippery and slimy afterward, and I wasn't able to handle it as well. I don't know. I just couldn't shoot it that day. And to be honest, it smells even worse now. You got me, right? This poster, he got me. He fooled me. He embarrassed me. It wasn't until I read this a few times and I realized, he's not talking about his ball sack. He's talking about a basketball. When I read this originally, I will admit I was fooled. I thought he was talking about his ball sack, and that was disgusting. Because I know plenty of guys who don't take their hygiene seriously, but even the most degenerate Mountain Dew drinker among us will wash his balls once every full moon. To go 8 months without washing your ball sack, that's foul. That's foul. You used to be fouled out of the game. But so he's talking about a basketball and going back to the opening. I played basketball. Like, I'm not being hyperbolic. Every day from first grade, probably through high school for sure. Almost every day. Even if it was snowing, raining, I'd be out in our driveway, just shooting. I'd be shooting. I didn't give a fuck about defense, but I was a sharpshooter. There was one time I made 97 out of 100 free throws in my driveway. I would just shoot for hours. Did not give a fuck about defense. I'm not athletic. What did all that work? Shooting in my driveway alone for hours at a time. What did I get out of all that? I was a JV starter my junior year of high school, averaged maybe 6 or 8 points a game. But yeah, I had a shot. I'd play with my friends in my neighborhood, all these teams, all these leagues that were local. I played in middle school, high school on the team, and I just played basketball for hours at a time, day after day. And not once did I ever wash my basketball. Now, this is how it worked with my family. Every year I got one for Christmas. I would get one pair of the basketball sneakers and one new basketball. So from December 25th to the next December 25th, I had one basketball. I'd use it every day. If it was leather or rubber, like it'd get worn down, like a leather basketball. By the following December, like a brown leather basketball would be almost white, and it'd be shredded, and it'd almost be rough to the touch because all the shredded leather would like cut your hand. And a rubber one would just it looked very similar to a bare tire. Just the rubber, there'd be no grip, it'd be smooth, and yeah, you definitely get dirt on your hand, especially if you're playing outside. But it never even occurred to me that I could wash my basketball. I know golfers, if you go to a golf course, they have the little contraption thing where you drop your ball in and it will wash your golf ball. No such thing for basketball. Me and my friends, and I'm pretty certain none of my friends or their parents washed their basketball. And when I got to high school, we used indoor basketballs, and we had a rack of like nice leather balls. I don't think our coach ever washed those balls. And you think about basketball. You're at practice. You're running up and down the court doing drills, suicides. You're doing the weave. You're wearing your pennies. You're sweating. You're playing outside in the summer with your boys or your gals. You're sweating. You're pulling a ball like under your armpit. You're going in between the legs. You're like holding it between your legs. It's just everyone, like 10, 20 people, just their sweat, their armpits, their pennies. Practice jersey that they're never washing. It's all your basketballs are absorbing all of this, all of it, and not one person. When I was growing up, and maybe it's like what's that game? Beer pong. When I was coming of age, when you're playing beer pong, you put the beer in the red cups, and then you would drink the red cups. But then somewhere along the way, they stopped doing that. You put water in the cups and you just have a cup of beer and you would drink from that. It's much more hygienic. So maybe the players today and teams do wash their balls, but when I was growing up, that basketball, there were more germs on that than there were in the trenches during World War I. Like, how did I not get gangrene or have to amputate a finger or get black lung or some grayscale from Game of Thrones? Like, you think about how many germs were on that ball, just literally being passed from one dirty boy to another, who was probably picking his nose and then and grabbing his ball sack and wiping his sweat and then touching the basketball and passing it to me. And I would do the same thing and pass it along. And then you would shoot it. You shoot it, right? And it goes through the net. When was the last time someone washed a basketball net? Never. And now none of my friends or teammates or competitors, none of us dropped dead. None of us contracted a parasite or something, a worm or something. It is a miracle. Do not come at the B-Man telling me that God does not exist. Because with all of us growing up playing basketball, touching that basketball, how none of us died of some rare disease, that's a miracle. That is a miracle. So, no, it's so funny because I never even thought about washing a basketball or the germs that were were on that basketball. But now that I'm thinking, like, I'm glad I didn't think about it, because if I thought about all the germs that were being pressed on a basketball, like, I would not have played when I was growing up. Like, that's disgusting. Like, I want no part of that. Put me in the trench warfares, General. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. Do coaches wash their basketballs now? Let me know down in the comments. Let's go look at some photos. Episode 159er, segment 2. Now, as I mentioned the number 2, very recently I saw with my own eyes 2 nuns talking to each other. That's N-U-N-S, nuns. And as you can guess, probably guess that is, they were very old. Now, I would guess they were probably over the age of 75. Now, it's kind of judging the age, or guessing the age, that is, of nuns. It's a difficult task because the nun does not live a very challenging life, physically, that is. I assume they live most of their life in the monastery, and I've never seen a young nun that was actually a real nun that could tell you what the 10 commandments are. If you ever see a nun under the age of 30, you assume that's a kink. Either she has, or that her man or lady has, that she's trying to fulfill. Like, you just assume, well, that's a costume. She's either going to a party, or she's going to a dungeon or something. Now that I speak about it, since I've seen these 2 nuns, I have been thinking a lot about nuns, but my Instagram reels feed, it's littered with AI nuns, and none of them are religious. These are all nuns that are trying to bring me to the dark side. They're trying to bring me to Satan, and I'm not doing it. I keep scrolling, but there is a large, I don't know, subgroup, a category of nuns on Instagram that have nothing to do with religion and everything to do with R-rated. I don't even, but leave that where it is. Enough with my Instagram feed, which we know is just, you can't even open that up in public. But I was watching these nuns, and they were old. They were wrinkly, and it was very, like, anytime I see nuns, I appreciate it. It really has nothing to do with the nuns or the church or the religion. It just, like we all acknowledge that every nun in existence today is probably over the age of 65. So there's a real chance. I wouldn't put a high probability. I put the percentage at, I don't know, maybe 10%. There's a real 10% chance that those 2 nuns that I saw talking to each other might be the last time I ever see nuns in public again. And even when you go to church, which I haven't been to church in a very, very long time, like, nuns don't go to church. Like, priests dominate the church. But yeah, so anytime I see nuns, it's like, oh, there's like it's like, it's even more than the Amish. The Amish are not prevalent where I live, but you see an Amish person, it's like, oh, that's an Amish person. They'll be there forever. But the nuns, they're very close to being extinct. They probably should be put in captivity, or the endangered species list is where the nuns should be. Or we should be Like the American government should be, I guess that's separation of church and state, but the church, they should be protecting the nuns. And I don't know how you reproduce nuns, but the, I don't know. I'm a little flustered. Like you don't really see nuns in public very much, hardly at all. So now that I saw them, it's like, man, I took a mental snapshot of it, and it's ingrained in my mind, and maybe it's not those two nuns. It's just everyone knows what a nun dresses like. So maybe it's just that is why it's so vibrant in my mind right now. Okay, enough with the nuns. Although now that it's kind of becoming that all these nuns are appearing on my Instagram feed, nuns are kind of becoming a kink that I have, and I don't know how I feel about that as a Catholic. All right, moving along. This comes from Child Support for Men. Child support in Philadelphia. A lot of that, probably. Hello. My husband is going through the child support system in Philadelphia, PA. That's Pennsylvania. I was wondering if anyone can let us know what to expect. He has one child from a previous marriage. The conference officer inflated his monthly income. He makes $1,700 bi-weekly after taxes, but it's listed him as making around $6,000 before taxes. His basic support amount is around $800. His ex-wife was able to add an additional $400 for nanny expenses, but the nanny is her mother that lives with her. After child support is taken from his paycheck, he's left with $2,400. He has a hearing with the masters in October, and we have a newborn, okay, due in August. So your husband works and fucks and reproduces. What should you expect? Well, you should expect that your husband's going to have to pay $1,200 a month in child support going forward for the next 18 years or whenever this child becomes 18, right? So you have the $800 and then the $400 for the nanny. And even though the nanny is the baby mama's mama, she's still like being a nanny for the baby. So she should be getting paid with money for that job. So I'm okay with the judge or the court giving the ex-wife baby mama the extra $400. So yeah, your husband, he's going to have to pay $1,200 a month going forward. And so you're going to have to take that. You're going to have to accept that. Now, I don't have children of my own. I've never had to go to court for child support, and that is surprising because a B-man, my pullout game is non-existent. I love to paint those walls of the old vagina. So, what, your husband makes $1,700 bi-weekly. That's actually $100 more than I make bi-weekly. So the both of us, when you're making that little, like you really shouldn't be keeping your penis inside when you have your gasm. That's when you're making that little bi-weekly, you really should be pulling out and hawking a dick loogie on a chin. So I need to learn to be better at that, as does your husband, although you're pregnant. So what does this do for your relationship with your husband? Now, what you need to know is that there's no scorn. What's that saying? There's no there's no hell on earth like a babe scorn. Whatever that phrase is, like there's some truth to it. And what you have to understand is that this baby mama, all right, like your husband's baby mama, like she's going to keep bringing your husband to court for more money, more time, more custody. It's just going to be one issue after the other. She's going to keep bringing him to court. And it's not so much about the money, although it's always about the money. In this instance, or in many of these instances with child support and like broken families, like the baby mama that your husband is paying child support for, she's going to keep bringing him to court to ruin your life. Now she's vindictive. She has this baby. The husband or the father of the baby left, formed a relationship with you. Now she's furious about that. Like, you gotta know that. Like, she's furious that he left and started a family with a new babe. Now she's gonna do everything within her power to ruin your relationship. And the way she's going to do that is through the court. So she's every month, a few times a year, you're going to get a summons from a lawyer, and your husband's going to have to go back to court, fight the case, and the baby mama is going to keep doing this, yes, to get more money, but also to cause strife between you and your loving husband. And it's probably going to work. It's probably going to work. Like, you're having this baby, right? With this deadbeat father who left his ex baby, right? Like, he had a baby with another baby, left her, started fucking you, impregnated you. Now you're going to have a family with him. Now you got to understand, like, the ex baby mama is going to cause so much strife that it's probably going to break up your relationship. And what's going to happen probably by the age of 6, like, you're going to have a baby. By the time that baby turns 6 years old, you're going to demand a divorce from your husband, and you're going to do exactly what the ex baby mama is doing. Like, you're going to take him to court for child support. The only problem is the original baby mama is already getting child support. So there's less money, it's pooled money to get child support from. So you're going to end up getting less money than the original baby mama. So that's going to make you furious. And then, it's a cycle. The cycle keeps repeating itself. Now, a lot of the more vindictive people on the internet would take joy in this, that your burgeoning family is probably going to get destroyed. And when I say the internet, or a lot of guys on the internet are going to be happy or vindictive and find joy in your life being destroyed, now, that's not me. But a lot of Johns out there are going to be like, listen, you got this coming to you. Like, look, you knew this guy had a family, left his family behind for you, and you allowed him, like, you wrapped your legs around him and let him inseminate his dick loogie inside of you and start a family. And when he leaves you, all those people on the internet and in your life are like, you fucking had it coming to you. Like it's your fault for letting a deadbeat father come inside of you. Now, there is some merit to that claim. And whether it's true or not, I don't find glee in that. I do not. I like families that are intact, that are loving families. I want happiness for me and for all. All right? I don't like watching videos of just people's lives just being just shitty and just falling apart with student debt and children without fathers and without mothers and all that, and you lost your job and your husband left. Now, I don't like that. We're all for shits and giggles, smut humor. That's what we want here at Verbal Graffiti. That's what we like. But you got to know, there is a segment of the population that is just waiting for your loving husband to leave you. Now, you can't control them. What you need to prepare yourself for is this husband probably is going to leave you, right? Because he's kind of a Yeah, he's a deadbeat father. He's paying child support, which is, good for him. But he's certainly not making enough money to support two families. And when you have your child, you gotta prepare your child since you don't. Your husband's not able. Since he's not able to give all his resources to you and your, let's say you have a son, he's not able to give all his financial resources to you and your son. Like half of it's going to the baby mama, the first one. There is going to be some bitterness with your new baby when your son, daughter, when he grows up. He's going to be bitter that he has to that he always has to, like, he has to wear generic diapers, and he has to wear the bottom shelf bagged cereal with the weird name, and at best he's going to have an above ground pool, and he's going to have to wear hand-me-down clothing, and he's going to be bullied at school because of that, and he's going to take his frustration out on you, the mom and the husband, and that's going to cause strife too. So you're going to have strife from the ex baby mama, and then the son or daughter that you have that's angry that all the resources, they aren't going to him, and that he's got to wear all this hand-me-down clothing. He's being bullied, and he's getting beaten up at school. So he's gonna go on and go, fuck you, you bitch, and fuck you, your dad, and it's just the family's gonna blow up. So love your husband now, because it's only a matter of time or years before your family gets blown up and you're asking this same deadbeat father for money for child support for the child that you have with him. Huh? So you're just, be prepared for a life of trauma. It's going to be a tumultuous life going forward. I hope you're strong. I hope the dick was worth it. Because in a short, sooner before later, you're probably going to be a single mom. So I hope you have a strong, supportive family helping you out for you and your child. But hey, you're a loving family right now, so enjoy it while you can with half the money. Go suck a fat one.